Liberty begins at home. So, how do we teach our children to love America or why it's even worth loving? We're going to talk about that today on The Mom View. Okay, so today we are here on the Mom View to talk about how we do teach our children about America. And, you know, there are some really great programs out there, but I have to say that the Cottage Meeting Project that we have at Moms for America has got to be one of the best ones out there. And today I am thrilled to have Juleen Jackson on our set as our guest host throughout the entire show because she is, okay, if you guys have ever gone to an event where Juleen walks in and we're like, oh, and here's Juleen, and all of a sudden all these moms go, oh my gosh, it's Juleen.
I literally fangirled when I first met her. Not gonna lie.
Total fangirl. She's the one who does the online cottage meetings that gets all the moms so excited. And you know, people are like, what is a cottage meeting? How does that even work? And we're going to talk a lot about that today and the impact that it has. But each one of us has had an experience with the cottage meeting. So I thought, you know, Juleen, just a little bit about what it is, and then everybody just share your experience about being part of it.
Yeah. A cottage meeting is as simple as a gathering of women, 4 to 5 to 6 women, typically in a neighborhood, in a community, coming together to learn from one another, to share experiences. You laugh, you cry, you come and you realize, look, I'm not the only one that thinks these things. And you really feel shored up and empowered when you go home. And then you go home and you teach these things that you've learned together as women and mothers to your children, to your family.
Wow, that's, what is it, the most powerful influence we'll ever have. The greatest work we'll ever do is in the home. So if it starts with us and then we share it, that's pretty amazing. Myra, have you done the cottage meetings?
You know, my at the beginning I couldn't understand what it meant, right? But what I love about the cottage meetings, how you bring all this history, all this about America, as someone who just became a citizen and loves this country so deeply, you know, to be able to portray about America without making it seem like you're in a history class, because don't ask me about my American history class in high school. It'll be like, all I learned was my body, my choice.
Oh, no.
So, I mean, to learn something in a different setting, how to teach the children that, right? I mean, even just a cottage meeting will help even people become citizens for that civic test that they have to take, you know, which you don't think about it like a class, you know, because they make it fun, because the staff in there, it's just like, to make conversation with the rest of our family. The kids are engaged, right? That's what I love about our cottage meetings.
Awesome. You know, I love that you brought up the citizen part, because the citizenship test that when you become a citizen, most of the kids in the country don't learn those things. So having the cottage meetings when the moms learn them and can share them with their children, they're getting it too. So I just love that. You've been doing them too, Debbie?
I have, and I've been with Moms for America for 8 years. When I met Juleen, I was told that she was an incredible teacher on the Constitution and freedom and liberty. And that's so true. So are you, Kimberly, I should say as well. But it's our signature program. It's 12 lessons that promote the principles of liberty. It is amazing because it teaches America's history, our history. These are things that we're not teaching children. And frankly, we're not talking about as women, as moms. We're not discussing this in our home. And what the cottage meeting does so well is it educates moms to think about freedom, the Constitution, what is liberty, all those principles. And then, like you always say, Juleen, we go back and we talk about that at our kitchen table, when we're driving our kids to school, when we're praying with them at night. We take all of that information about America, our history, the Constitution, our God, our worldview, and we teach it to our children as we mentor them throughout the day. So we learn it. What do you always say? When mama learns, the house learns?
If it's important to mom, it'll be important to everyone in the home. When mom knows and understands and reveres these things, so will her children and grandchildren.
It's contagious.
It is.
So it's great.
Well, and then last year or the year before, I guess, we came up with cottage meetings for kids.
Yeah.
And this year we launched cottage meetings for teens so that the whole family can get it. But Allie taught online the cottage meeting for kids
I
last year.
taught
It was
the ones for
awesome.
kids,
You did
and
so
it was
good with that.
Thank
too.
you. It was so much fun. I got to dress up like a revolutionary. It was hilarious. The kids loved it. My kids loved it. And I like the fact that we're able to do it in our own homes and kind of reach out to our circle of influence, because women have a very big influence in our own, communities, because we communicate with each other. We talk to each other. I mean, if you want something told, you tell a woman. It's just that simple. Our men are the head and women are the neck. And so if there's something that's important to us, it ends up being important to everyone. But I love our cottage meetings because even as a veteran, I don't think I had as much of a respect, I don't even want to say respect, but like as much of a reverence for our nation as I did prior to learning or going through the cottage meetings. And I think it's so important for us to teach that next generation what liberty means, why our nation was founded the way it was, so that we can rebuild it in a way, in our own image, in a way that we can push forward and be more progressive but liberty minded. So
when I tell people about the cottage meetings and they say, what is it? I said, well, it's basically like a classical liberal arts education that we should have learned in school and didn't. And they're like, well, what does that mean? And I said, well, we teach the Constitution, the story of America. And they're like eyes glassed over. Oh, the Constitution. And I'm like, no.
It's digestible.
This isn't like article this and section that.
Right.
We talk about all those things and we reference them, but we take the principles of the Constitution and tie it into what's happening today. And what's so empowering about that is that all these moms are like, whoa, wait a minute. They can't do that.
Right.
Like, no, they can't. It's illegal. It's outside the Constitution. And they start to realize how powerful they really are and that our rights come from God, not government. And so whether they're walking into a school board meeting or a committee hearing or just, talking to their children, they're more empowered because it's not just what they know. It's what they've become.
I'm so glad you brought that up, because I think having that education piece, that foundation built in when you're learning all of this, helps you be more of an active electorate. We have to have an active and engaged electorate. If we do not, we're going to continue to see what we're seeing currently in our nation. So going through this class, making sure that you're teaching your children about the foundation of our nation is so important when you're advocating for them. You can't go into, your representative's office and say, you can't do this, and just say that. You have to literally explain why they can't do that, which is why this is so important. So
I always tease it as when the best way to explain it in general is it's like Tupperware for liberty. Everybody knows, all moms know how to do that, right? All women have been to a home party or have held a home party. So this is just invite your own circle of friends and neighbors into your home, 7, 8, 9 of you, and just lead a discussion group. And it's inspiring stories and examples that you can relate to. And so it resonates with moms because it is relatable to moms. And that's, I guess, what the cottage meeting does, is it makes it relatable so that we can get it. And then we're more empowered when we have to go and stand up for ourselves or our kids.
And I think one of the things that we've lost a bit in our culture is meeting together. And by the way, they do this virtually. We do the cottage meetings virtually too. And not only just the cottage meeting series, but other webinars you and Al do on the principles of liberty, our foundation of freedom. But we've lost meeting together. So if we can establish and get together and link arms, and I think you talk so much about that, the power of us together, united. And that's really another thing that the cottage meeting does. It's inspirational. And it empowers moms, which is
a church group,
and educate. So those are our right. Those are our principles that we teach. Empowering and educating. So it's really great.
If you go to Bible study on Wednesday, go to your Liberty class on Saturday.
I think as a Hispanic, when you talk to the Latina moms, right, and then you're talking about this and them learning, it's like they are learning what this country means. This is why they love America. This is why they came to America, right? So for them to learn that here in this country, they do have a voice, right? That freedom does mean something, right? Something they didn't have in their home country or something they didn't have in their parents' country, right? That creates a sense of empowerment to these moms.
I think the fact that they're in home It's a comfortable setting. They're your friends, they're your own circle of friends. I'm not asking you to go out and knock on doors. Just invite your own circle of friends. And I can't tell you how many times I hear women who, we call them the hostesses, but they're just moms and women who invite people into their home. And they say, I can't tell you how many times that someone will come to their meeting and say, I didn't know what a cottage meeting was. I just came because you were my friend and you were serving brownies. But by the first or second meeting, they're like hooked, and they want to keep meeting because we're looking for those connections. We're hungry for something hopeful and positive. And I think that's why they keep coming.
What I think is really cool too is that if you have moms that are doing these cottage meetings in their home and you have them bring their kids, the kids get engaged when they're doing the Liberty cottage meetings, and then you have the kids learning what we're teaching them, and then they're able to teach each other, which is, I mean, it's incredible to see that. I love watching that spark when the kids learn something new and they just grasp it. And it's so easy for them to do with the way we've built our courses.
Like a one-room schoolhouse kind of thing.
Right, exactly.
All in the home. Well, I'm very excited to be able to have Juleen and I are going to talk about her experience and how it started, because really she and I were kind of having the same path direction. She started a little much earlier than me, but realized that that's what it was a cottage meeting, and how the journey started and how we got to where we are. And that's a very exciting story. So we will be right back to talk with Juleen about the cottage meeting launch and what touched her heart on the Mom View.
Do you think America is having an identity crisis?
Yes, very much so. My people perish for lack of knowledge.
There's a lot of targeting of conservative children.
That they're coming after the children. It's like, you know what? We have to do something. This is war.
Professors and students are trained in a particular kind of way, and that there's indoctrination that takes place that you're not aware of.
All the curriculum was dumbed down, and we moved away from teaching knowledge, facts, and information, and instead indoctrinated kids with attitudes, values, and beliefs that most parents don't believe and don't want their children believing.
It's the globalists that want to reshape the globe are a elite group, a small group of gatekeeper elites.
Our children are being formed, they're being shaped by a system that is actually designed to turn them away from God, to turn them away from the principles that are at the foundation of our country, really even to turn them against their families.
That the condition of the land is always directly related to the condition of God's people's hearts. And so we're now maybe facing national judgment.
Now what we're up against is the establishment. See that we need to have some kind of a healthy revolution. We would always say a non-violent revolution, but there has to be a revolution. Otherwise, we're going to go down, because these foxes are part of a world order. They're globalists, they're not Americans, and they'll sink this ship.
Just think of the power of those three words, just a mom. You are fighting for something that means more to you than anything in the world, your children.
There are patriots like you and me fighting against the globalist agenda in order to preserve our republic. I want you to meet them and be inspired. Are you ready? Let's go.
It was this cottage meeting series 1 year ago that set me on my trajectory to Christianity in general. I was not raised in a religious family. I was wandering. Freedom is the answer everybody can get around. When you lean into freedom long enough, regardless of what you believe, atheist, skeptic, you name it, whatever, freedom is the answer. And so Moms for America will always have the most special place in my heart. Yes, Moms for America and this cottage meeting class and the 5,000 year leap and all of it is the answer. And it's going to save lost mamas like me, because I didn't know God's handprints were all over our founding documents. Without Moms for America, I would not have had the slightest clue. Yeah. And to be anchored in hope, because when I found Moms for America, I was terrified. The world was collapsing. I was reading the news. I didn't have God. And now I do. And now my son has the benefit of that. And so I am learning right along with him. So I just wanted to say from the bottom of my heart, cottage meetings right here.
That's pretty awesome.
Don't you
So,
love it? She
I-
had to go to the bathroom probably to find a quiet spot. So cute.
Well, and it's real when you see videos like that, and then we have so many testimonies of moms like that it changed their lives, and I that it is what we hear the most. So it changed my life, and I think it changed yours, and I know the thing that I really felt really passionate about was I didn't want to just keep it for myself. I wanted to share it with my children. I had a deep burning desire to share it with my children, but then I wanted to share it with other moms so they could share it with their children. And that's kind of when we met. It was like, 2012.
Yeah.
And we had been, there were 3 of us on the board at the time praying about how can we put what we've learned, in on mothers' hearts in like a year. And it seemed like a daunting task because it wasn't just about what we know, it was about who we are. And to put it in their heart that just seemed like a big deal. And I remember I was cleaning up after my Pampered Chef party one day, and God put it on my heart. This is what it is. It's called a cottage meeting. And women already know how to do it. And right around that time, I got a phone call from one of the ladies who was on our board saying, Kimberly, I just heard this most amazing woman, and she's like doing the cottage meetings. And that's kind of when we connected.
Right. Yeah, I had started this study group in my neighborhood because we were worried about what our kids were being taught in school systems, and we wanted to know how we could learn the things that would shore our kids up, armor them up when they go out to school or to the university or the playground. And it was beautiful. I mean, it began to change me, as I've said. It began to, change my marriage. Me and my husband began to teach unitedly these things to our children in our morning devotional. I mean, that's really when you can get a husband and wife to do it together. And it took a little bit of time. Initially my husband thought, well, you're teaching constitutional principle in our morning Bible study? What's going on, Juleen? But, the Spirit pricked his heart and he understood, and we began to do it together, and the children could see Mom and Dad were on the same page. And if it was important to us, it was going to be important to them.
So when I held my first cottage meeting, I actually didn't. I mean, I kept wanting to, and we kept talking each week, and I kept saying, gosh, I wish we had the materials because I want to hold a cottage meeting in my home. Yeah. We didn't have any books or resources or anything like we have now. And I just felt very strongly that God put it on my heart to just do it. If you want to know what a cottage meeting looks like, hold one in your home. And so I did. I invited 9 of my friends. They were all different ages, all different races, all different religions. It was just my circle of friends. And as we met, when they came into the room, I'll never forget, they looked at my room and had a big library like this with all these books, and I could hear them talking. Does she read all these books? It was time to read. It was time to do any of this stuff. And it was after we showed the film Monumental that Kirk Cameron did, and it had just come out on video, and so I felt like that's what we should show. But I was worried because I'm like, gosh, this could take. The movie itself is like an hour and a half, and then I wanted to talk about what we're doing, and it could go over 2 hours, and I was like, gosh, this could just be too long. And it's funny because I didn't need to worry, because these moms, I was literally sliding the last one out of my home at midnight. They were so hungry for hope. And as you're teaching these classes, you're seeing this too. When these moms come on and you see their eyes light up, it's got to just warm you the way it does me.
Well, since COVID, we started teaching the cottage meetings online,
right?
Just because it was a little harder to meet in the houses. And so these moms could see that there were moms just like them. There were grandmothers just like them all across the country, and that they were not crazy, that they were not the only ones that thought something was wrong. And it really bolstered their spirits, their confidence as they began to come each week. They began to understand, wait a minute, I will be the best teacher my children will ever have. I am the most qualified to teach them what they need to know. I know them better than anyone else. And you saw that. And then each week they began to tell stories of how what they were learning in the cottage meetings, they were going home and incorporating in their home. They were starting to pray together as a family. They were starting to pledge allegiance, something as simple as pledging, or they were starting to read a Bible story together or eat dinner together. Just these simple things that they began to weave into their home that was beginning to move the needle and assure and strengthen their children's grown up, and it's just been a beautiful thing to see.
I'm glad that you brought up the flag, because at my first cottage meeting, we always pledge the flag and say a prayer at the beginning of
Yeah,
cottage meetings
same here.
and home and online. And I had a friend, we were living in Hawaii at the time, and she teaches fifth grade class at Schofield Army Barracks Elementary School. Now, this is a military base,
Yeah.
and all those children are children of military families. And so she was telling me that the children in her school are not required to pledge the flag. And she brings, because being the patriot that she is, she brings her fifth grade class in every year and has them pledge the flag. And they grumble and complain. Why do we have to do that? This is dumb. Nobody else does that. And I just thought, the parents of those children are putting their lives on the line every day for that flag and everything it stands for. If those children don't have a love and understanding for the flag, what hope do we have for our country? And then she told me, I spend the next 3 weeks telling those children why it is we pledge the flag. And then they go out and they tell all the other kids, well, you should do it too. And so I was like, that's the power of influence. So I told that story at my first cottage meeting. And at the end of Kirk Cameron's film, he says, I'm all in, are you? And so there was this one young mom. She was very young, 23, 24 years old, had 2 little boys, and was pregnant with her 3rd child. And she called me the next day and she said, Kimberly, I just wanted to tell you I'm all in. And I said, that's great. She goes, no, you need to understand. I didn't know what a cottage meeting was. I just came because you're my friend. I wanted to support you, and you were serving cheesecake. And, and we hear that all the time. You were serving brownies, and I came. And she said, I couldn't sleep last night. And it's all I could think about this morning. And maybe it's true that those children in the school aren't pledging the flag. But that doesn't stop me from going to Walmart, buying a little flag, and putting it up in my home and pledging it with my little boys every morning. That, Juleen, right there was the moment that I realized just how powerful this program was in changing hearts and bringing families close together. And we've seen that. We had one mom who was in the cottage meeting, and she and her mom hadn't talked for years, and now they're like inseparable. And she said it was because of the cottage meeting. All these things, we had no idea that were going to come from this.
Right. She said that attending those online cottage meetings healed an estranged relationship that they had for years, because they both loved America. And that was the one thing that brought them together and healed that relationship. And so we've just seen so many examples around the nation of, once this knowledge gets in you, these principles, these principles and liberties, these stories and miracles of America, God begins to work on your heart. And, it helps you to stay anchored in hope when everyone is like losing their minds, running back and forth. It helps you to know, look, we look to God, not government, for deliverance or freedom. And it also teaches us how to keep our families close, what we can do. How do we teach our children these things? And that's why we talk a lot about, the family devotional.
And it's so simple thing. It's simple. So you rattle them off. You rattle off the presentations. So just name all the presentations in that first series.
We have this initial 12 cottage meeting resource guide series of classes, and it's anchored in hope, ladies first, liberty begins at home, how to teach your children the foundation of faith, how to teach the valor of virtue, the power of patriotism, how to teach a love of freedom through the arts, music, literature, poetry, and the importance of the dinner hour, teaching principles of self-reliance. We've got such an entitlement mentality going on nowadays. How to teach the Constitution in a really simple, basic way. And ultimately, how do we raise up the next generation of patriots? So you lay that foundational, lessons in the mothers, and they begin to change. They begin to know, wait a minute, I've got something I can teach my children that's more important than possibly what they could learn when they go off for 6, 7, 8 hours in the classroom, and you begin to see the mother begin to transform and rise up to this privilege of being a mother.
It's what happened to me when I kept saying, I wish we had the resources. I want to hold a cottage meeting. I had no idea what it would look like, but God was right. When he said, hold one, you'll know what it's supposed to look like. When they were watching the film Monumental, all through the film, they kept saying, I didn't know this. How do you find this stuff? Where? And when the film was over, they're like, what should we be reading and how can we get more involved? And I mean, before we started this meeting, it was like, I don't read, who reads? I don't have time to get involved in anything else. As soon as the film's done, they're looking at me going, how can we get more involved? What should we be reading? They were so hungry. And I realized that what the cottage meeting was everything that inspired me, everything that inspired you. We took all the best stories, the personal experiences, and we packaged it all together. So it's all done. And you can just lead a discussion group in your home. It is very simple. And we even have the plug and play. You did the professional videos. You can show the 30-minute video and then talk about it. I mean, we have made it as simple as possible. And it is those small and simple things that make all the difference in the world.
I mean, that resource guide, I would lay it on my lap in the mornings when we would have our little devotional and with my jammies on, and I would just read the little patriotic stories, miracle stories right out of it has quotes and scripture links and video links. I mean, it's just, I think it's the best resource guide for mothers to teach your children to love America. And so obviously I have a testimony of that cottage meeting manual. And I've seen firsthand the impact that it's had on our 5 children. And
so you were telling me a story about your daughter and the flag.
Yeah. So that was 14 years ago. Little Mary Alice, who's 24 years old, about 14 years ago, she was in 5th grade. And we were living in a small town on the Columbia River in Hood River, Oregon. And the teacher, the children weren't allowed to pledge because it mentioned the word God. That was offensive to, some families in the school. So they never pledged, but there was a flag the whole year. My little girl, and she was used to pledging, in our home. And so she was 10.
10 years.
So she raised her hand on the last day of school and said, teacher, can we, because it's the last day of school, could we pledge? And he let them, and she led the pledge. And that was the first thing she wanted to tell me when she came home on the last day of school. Mom, we got to pledge allegiance. And, it's just those little things, planting those seeds of a love of liberty and the great men and women that have sacrificed their lives. And that child has gone on now to become a doula. She stands for life. She helps deliver babies into the world and is a real advocate for motherhood. And so it's really, I think the greatest reward is to see all these little things that we try to do in our home and how they're manifesting the fruits, because you won't see them for about the first 10 years when all the kids are rolling their eyes and saying it's too long or, I'm falling asleep.
That's the sustainability. I'm so glad you said that, because when we'd pull our kids together, we'd have like a family night or an activity, and you're sitting there going, oh, sit down. Okay, could you just listen? You're thinking, oh my gosh, why am I even doing this? The sustainability of it. Don't give up, because they are hearing more than you could possibly know, and it's touching their hearts. And it is influenced. I've seen it in your children. I've seen it in my children, and all these moms now that we're reaching and touching, and just the things that they're doing. And the one thing I want to say is that all the amazing things they're doing. They're running for office. They're on school boards. They're even in Congress. I mean, all these moms have been inspired to do various different things, creating curriculum, starting kids' book clubs. But the most important thing is to teach this to your children. Share that love of liberty in the hearts of your children, and then go vote those values. If that's all you do, that will have a huge impact on our country. Everything else is just extra.
Right. Yeah. Oh, that is so true, Kimberly. I mean, really, when God wants to change the world, he finds a little mama in a little obscure town, and a little babe comes to her, and he gives her the ideas and the teachings for her then to instill upon that child's heart. Then that child, it grows and leaves the home, and it goes out and becomes the change that the world needs, because of that mama and the inspiration that she felt through God.
So I have another extra extension. I don't think you're there yet. I now have 9 grandchildren.
Oh, my word.
And I am watching my children teach their children those same principles, instilling that love of liberty. And it is the greatest accomplishment that I could say I've had as a mother. All the things that people say, oh, you've done this, you've done that. I'm like, no, the greatest thing I've done is put that in the hearts of my children, because we are raising the future of our country. I am so excited because we're going to be able to come back and have Al on the couch, your husband. You guys have been doing these classes together for a long time, and you do such a good job. So I know everybody keeps asking, how do we get involved? And we'll just let you know, it is so simple. So you just come to momsforamerica.us, right at the top in the menu bar, Cottage Meetings. That will get you hooked up with everything from cottage meetings to cottage meetings for kids, cottage meetings for teens. But moms, it is about you. When it touches your hearts, you're going to want to touch your children's hearts. And here's the best news. You can join us online. There is no cost to join these presentations at Cottage Meetings online. We hold them throughout the year. And if you want to get the resource guide, most people do, you can download it for a very inexpensively, I think it's $15. You can get the actual book, which we have, and we've well used our books. But everything is available at momsforamerica.us, and you can reach out to us. We're always available to answer your questions and get you signed up. We'll be right back on the couch on the Mom View. We've all heard the old saying, every vote counts, right? Well, maybe you think your vote couldn't possibly make a difference. Maybe you think your one vote is insignificant or irrelevant. You are not insignificant, and your one vote can have a huge impact. Moms like us care deeply about our children and grandchildren. Our culture, our values, the economy, and our freedoms are all extremely important to us. As moms, we must be engaged. We need to vote our values. Yes, every vote does count. And when we unite our one vote with the votes of moms all across the country, it's no longer just an election. It's a movement.
Well, I've reviewed the material for the cottage meetings, and it's just fantastic. It's inspirational, it is informative, and it's empowering. It's the kind of encouragement and inspiration that I think moms need for them to engage in positive action. So thank you for the cottage meetings who lead them.
Well, what a great word from Kirk Cameron. Obviously, he's a fan. We so appreciate him really just sharing the importance, because we're all on the same page of promoting liberty and saving America. So thanks, Kirk, for that great words. He was such a fun interview. Well, I happen to have another guy in the house here who is Juleen Jackson's husband, Mr. Al Jackson. He may say he's the better half. I don't know. I'm going to just
better three-quarters.
Better three-quarters. Married 31 years, this couple. They are a powerhouse. They travel the country for us and for a lot of organizations, teaching the principles of liberty, sharing the Constitution, and really inspiring folks to appreciate and understand America. So thanks, Al, for coming on. We're all glad to have you.
I'm so excited you guys.
Okay, wait. This is gonna be a long one. So.
Okay. The shoes came on.
Oh gosh.
All right.
Too many women.
A little intimidated?
Yeah, just a little, yes.
Well, you guys have been doing these cottage meetings together for a while, and I don't know if everybody on the set knows your story, but I'd love to hear how the cottage meetings influenced you. They say behind every great man is an incredibly powerful, awesome woman. That's Juleen. So, when you first saw her doing all of this stuff, what'd you think?
That's a great question. So we already had been doing morning devotionals with our kids. We moved to Hood River, Oregon. We were really concerned about what they were teaching our kids, and we wanted to arm them before they went to school every day. So our house would be the only one with lights on at 6 o'clock, 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning. And then, so we would read scriptures and then talk about a little Bible story and then have a prayer and a song and send the kids off. And then Juleen started weaving in these principles from the 5,000-year leap. And I didn't know what to think at first. I thought she mentioned Glenn Beck. My antenna went up, right-wing zealot. I'm like, what is going on here? So I was very nervous about it in the beginning. But then as we continued to do it, then it started to get inside of me.
See? Well, and you're such a good teacher. Yeah, you guys
the men of the head, women of the neck. I'm telling you,
Right.
that's how it works.
But when you do it together, I think that's really powerful because, we're always doing the cottage meetings as moms and teaching it to our children. But the fact that you guys do these online as a couple helps people realize, no, it's the man and the woman together. Right. We need to be able to be partnered together in promoting these things in our home and in our community and our sphere of influence. And it led you all the way to do something like really insanely crazy and run for office.
That's right. So as we were doing these morning devotionals, there was a seat that came open in Utah. And I was getting phone calls, Al, you got to run, you got to run. No, I'm not interested. No, thank you. I'm happy being a dad, happy being a husband. I'm working. I don't need this. And then we were in a morning devotional, and the kids were like, well, wait a minute. You all been blowharding this stuff for months, years now.
They took you to task,
That's,
huh?
yeah, exactly.
like,
So they
"I
were
got
like,
it."
what are you gonna do? You're gonna put your money where your mouth is or not? And we will support you, Dad. So it was a family decision.
And you won.
Yes, I did by one vote in caucus.
Oh boy.
See, every vote counts, you
Every
guys.
vote counts.
Every
One
vote counts.
vote, that's right.
That's amazing. So I love that your kids kind of put your feet to the fire. Was like, you cannot teach us to be uncomfortable learning about all of these things and then expect us to just take your no when there's a seat available and you can take it and use what you've been teaching us to help, you know, the rest of the country or the rest of the community that you're in.
And it was a family thing because when I would go speak, it provided a platform to go teach these principles to people, not just talk about issues. And we would take the kids with us. And actually, we would have them speak along with us because we wanted them to see this is what it looks like.
Yeah, the empowering piece of that is just so incredible.
Juleen calls it the proof in the pudding, and I love that because we did an
That's
event. We did an
Hashtag.
event in Nebraska. I think it was like 2015, and she was going to come out and talk about the cottage meetings, and she brought one of your daughters, and so Juleen gets up and she talks about what this is. And then she says, well, I'm just going to let my daughter come and talk. So her daughter comes out. And she was like, what, 16, 17 at the time? Wow.
Was that Kayla?
Yeah,
Mary Alice.
Mary Alice.
okay.
Mary Alice. And she just gets up there, and you should have seen the moms in the room. They're like going, because that was the proof. Here's this young, just beautiful young teenage girl who's up there so articulate and talking about these principles. And every single one of your kids, I've seen them. There was another event we did in 2014, and I think it was Frank. Frank got up and spoke, and I think Mary Alice spoke at that one too. And it comes out in them. It's not like they're up there rehearsing anything. They don't have a speech or notes in front of them. They're just talking from their heart.
Right. And
it's
Frank was the
powerful.
one that slept through most of it.
Well, oh my goodness. I mean, it would seem, but just recently he said, Mom, I was not sleeping. I got a lot. I got a lot from
Those seeds are
morning
planted. Those seeds
Well,
are
and
planted.
I remember Mary Alice one time said, Mom, we learn more about history and government in our morning devotional than I've ever learned at school in our history classes or social studies classes. And at the time she was complaining, but to me it was like the greatest compliment she could have ever given me. I was like, oh,
Well, this really
is so important.
This is really teaching the foundations, because if we can build them when they're younger, well, anytime we can pick this up, but when you build and you pour into your kids, they remember. It's a scripture, right? Train them
biblical,
up,
yeah.
That's
and I
exactly
think
right.
that's what's so great about this class, the webinars, all of us, even just, having a marriage together and being able to show that to our children and celebrate that. These are all principles that are foundational for the family and for America. You can't go wrong.
No, I agree, and I love that you said that your daughter mentioned how she was learning more about history, more about the principles of liberty and our freedom through what you guys were doing at home than what she was learning at school. I mean, that's a testament of what a phrase that I like to say all the time is you can't send your kids to Caesar and expect them not to come home as Romans. It is up to us to train them. It's up to us to teach them. We are responsible for rearing them so that they can go out into their circle of influence and be that light, to shine that light and that beacon of hope, of liberty and freedom, and be an evangelist of freedom and love. So I think that's just so important. And it's just, I think everybody needs to take a moment and go to our website and look up how to get involved in our cottage meetings, because it's going to change your life. It will change your life.
That's what we hear most, you guys. I don't know how much you hear. I mean, I know you hear the moms a lot when they're on, but life-changing is the description that we hear most. And there was a mom in Florida a few years back, and she reached out to me. We'd been working together on some other projects, and she said, oh my gosh, Kimberly, I just love what I'm learning in the cottage meetings. It's life-changing. And she said, I was having a conversation with my state representative the other day on a constitutional principle, and he asked if I could slow down because he wanted to take notes. So
That's scary,
these are
guys.
simple principles. I know Myra has been, she was talking about the kids' corner and the cottage meeting for kids, and you guys are like doing that, and we're now making it's all in Spanish. We have it all in Spanish now too.
It is. What we're doing in Arizona, it's in a few libraries. They're doing like patriotism during this month, just to contra some of the other stuff going on in our public libraries, right? And the kids are so excited to be part of it. As an immigrant, it's teaching the kids how lucky they are to be born in this country. I mean, I cannot say that enough, how lucky you are to have been in this country. People don't understand that until you met someone from another country and you have been blessed just by the fact of being an American citizen, born and raised in this country. So teaching the kids to love that, to love the flag, right? Then we wouldn't have a bunch of kids burning our flags down, right? Because they were part of understanding what America is all about.
That's beautiful. You said something in Dallas last year. I don't think you realize how powerful it was what you said, but you said that we're going to heal this country. We're going to heal it from the inside out. And that's so transformative because we are going to heal this nation, and it's going to be one family at a time.
Amen.
That's how we're going to do this. It starts at home.
Well, how did you guys do your family devotionals? When I mean, what do? You talk about the family devotionals, but everybody wants to know what does it
what do
look
we do?
like? How long do you take? Are you like there for an hour with your kids?
They're about 6 hours, but go ahead.
The kids, as teenagers, thought they were 6. When the kids were little, like 3, 4, and 5, it was just a matter of teaching a little Bible story. We'd sing a little gospel song. We'd pray. Took all of 5 minutes. And then as the children began to get older, like every year when this new school year would begin, I'd reassess, what do I want to include in the devotional? And so particularly as they started going to middle school, it was about the time that I started going to cottage meetings, and we would meet once a month at this time. And we were studying the book, The 5,000 Year by Glenn Beck. He had held it up on a program that he had. I didn't even know who Glenn Beck was at the time, but we were living in this small town in Oregon. And the moms that I were hanging out with in our neighborhood in church, we were getting concerned what our children were being taught in the school systems, that America was inherently racist and abusive, and our founders were of that same ilk.
Around what time time frame was this?
And this was about
2008.
2008.
So that long ago.
In the middle, in front of the middle school, they put this big, ginormous world globe, like we're global citizens, and
We're
inherently
worshiping the globe.
right. And so this mother said, Glenn Beck said, we mothers need to gather together in neighborhoods and study this book, The 5,000 Year Leap, the principles that our founders used to establish this
Name
nation.
one of the principles.
Well, I mean,
About the family.
The one that I love is that the core unit that determines the strength of society is the family. So the government should foster and protect its integrity. Like our founders knew, if we had strong families, we would have strong communities. If you had strong communities, you'd have a strong nation.
No, my favorite is number 7.
Oh, the proper role of government is
Yes.
to protect
Equal
people's
rights,
rights,
not equal things.
equal things, right. And so, as we moms would gather together and we look, we were not constitutional scholars. We weren't historians. We didn't go to law school. We were just mothers that were really worried about our children and what they were being taught in school systems. So we came together and we taught one another and we shared stories, and then we came home and inevitably we began to teach them to our children and to our husbands. And it began to transform our relationships with each other, with our children, the way we teach our children. And, that's why I say those cottage meetings was probably one of the most transformational things I've done as a woman and as a mother.
Well, and you did it in your home, but then you took it to the community, and that just influenced all these other moms too. First in Oregon, then Utah, then Washington, D.C., then all over the... She's like planting little seeds everywhere.
I love it. I think, Juleen, you and your husband, Al, should write a devotional book and include
Oh,
what that
it's
looks
funny
like.
you mention that because we are.
You heard it here first.
Breaking news, you guys.
It's written in crayon, but we're getting
Oh
there.
my goodness. No, and I say that because I know that we've had conversations when we're together about your devotionals and what they look like. And I know that so many moms ask, like, how do you incorporate our principles of liberty into, our God time? Like, how do you even combine that? Where do you even start? And so I think you guys having this book or creating some kind of devotional on your own where you can share with others that are really curious about it is going to help change, I mean, that's going to just skyrocket.
Which is a great idea because we have been told for so long that God and politics, God and history, God, like they don't go together.
And it's not true.
No, they're so intertwined. Faith and freedom. I
God,
mean, you can't
He cares
separate.
about what kind of environment we live
Yeah.
in. He wants us to have maximum freedom because then that gives us an opportunity to choose for ourselves and choose Him.
I think one of the things I just like to pause right now to the moms too is that I think we've gotten so busy that we're doing everything and kind of left the home a little bit, you know? And this is not a judge, this is nothing on it, but moms are working, moms are, maybe they're single, there's challenges. The kids are learning from everywhere else, and it is time to buckle down.
Yeah, how
It's
bad do you want it?
restore the supper time. It's restore the prayer time. It's gather your kids in your home and just say, no social media, no outside influences right now. This is a time for us as families to get stable, to build that foundation, because we've
beautiful.
lost it.
That's
We've
beautiful.
lost it in today's
Because
world. We have to get back.
not every family has the
Right.
ability to homeschool their kids. They
Right.
don't. They have to send them to public school. So that time that you spend with them at home is so critically important.
It's foundational.
We
There-
raising biracial kids,
Right.
and we lived in predominantly white areas. We had to really emphasize to our kids who they are and how they fit in society, and that those problems of racism and discrimination, those are external problems. The door is locked from the inside, and this country was meant for you.
You know, I spoke in Europe at an event. Romania. It was the Make Europe Great Again, and they had all these different countries that were there talking about the problems that they were having in their country. And I realized we're all facing the same problem. Whatever country it is, we're facing an identity crisis. An identity crisis as a nation and an identity crisis as individuals and families. Everything that gives us purpose and passion, the things that give us that foundation, a reason for being who we are and trying to be better. It's all being divided and pulled away. And that's one of the things that the cottage meeting does, is not only does it teach those principles, it creates these little pockets of liberty and these communities of support. So when things are difficult or challenging, you have a group of people, mamas, to hold on to. When something's going wrong in your home, or you have a question, or gosh, I don't really know, has anybody else dealt with this? I mean, when you have cancer, what's the first thing you do? You go and find somebody who's had cancer and you ask them, how did you do it? Whatever it is. If you're homeschooling, how did you do it? If you have a problem in school, how did you deal with it? This is an opportunity for us to come together and talk about that and figure out how can we learn from each other, especially when you can unite generations. And I know you've seen that as the moms are coming online. I've seen it as I've had them in my home. This cross-generational thing of the older generation connecting with the younger generation is a very powerful thing that is also being divided and separated. And I what you said about the family is so true. And I would say extending it beyond just your immediate family, but you're the grandparents and you know, the others. Everyone within your sphere of influence benefits from this.
Well, we have to teach our kids, why do we stand for the flag? Why is America great? You know, what is our Christian worldview? I mean, these are things that are just falling to the wayside. And so that's what we try to do here at Moms for America. That's why we have, I mean, I'll tell you this, Ellen and Juleen, they not only teach the cottage meetings, they teach about the perils of communism. They teach about the principles of liberty, the freedom, the Constitution. I mean, healing of America.
The healing of America is the favorite.
Unbelievable.
We hear all the time. The cottage meeting was great. That those first, and they're all cottage meetings. It's just they're different courses, but the first 12, it's like, oh, that was so good. But the healing of America, that was just changed my life because it's a 16-part series. So there's the original 12, and then there's the 16-part series, Healing of America, and it goes through. It's not. Again, just talking about the articles or the sections. It's talking about why do we have one, and what happened to it, and then how do we get it back. And it's just they get so excited, and then they just keep coming back.
Right. You know, that curriculum really laid the bedrock foundation of history, of God's hand in establishing this nation, the leading features of the Constitution that are most important to a mom and dad, and what the world has gone wrong, why our country has become unhinged, and what we can do to heal ourselves, our marriage, our families, our schools, our communities, the Constitution, the nation. You get that knowledge inside of you, and you are powerful as you go out into the world, because now you're speaking on principles and history and stories stories and the miracles of America. You know how God dealt with, ancient people and our founders and how he will be with us. And you get those stories and those miracles in your children. And they go out and they walk the halls of, their schools, and they have to, we have a son, and I'm not sure I have time to tell the story, but he was a professional athlete for several years, and he was usually the only kid that put his hand over his heart when the national anthem was played, because he knew what the flag stood for and all the sacrifice. He learned that in the home. And even though he stood alone on the, biggest basketball arenas in the world, he did it because he had been taught in the home by mom and dad.
Amen. That's the foundation. There's that great quote that mothers put on their children's hearts things the world can never erase. That's the foundation that we're laying. When we got mom and dad working together, and they can see that we're united. We both care about these things. We're going to share these things with you because it matters to us. And these are simple little things that you can do at the table. Like we have like a 1, 2, 3 on the website. It's like say prayer every day with your children. Read just a 5-minute little story, or tell this 5-minute story from the Bible, and read a 30-minute story from history. The Bulletproof George Washington, I loved that story, and I could just tell it to my children. And when I was telling it, they were feeling it. It wasn't just dates and names. It was you could feel the passion of what they sacrificed. And we just had the greatest conversations at the dinner table about this. And so I know everybody's probably, we say it again. How do you find out about the cottage meeting? How do you get involved? So you can come to momsforamerica.us. Right on the top menu bar, it says cottage meetings, and you'll find cottage meetings for kids, cottage meetings for teens, and I highly encourage you to just go and check it out. You can join us online. We do it all year long. We have a class that you can join online live. You can download the ones that we've already had, and you can do it on the treadmill while you're driving the kids to school. So it's really easy to get involved, and I guarantee you will be more empowered than you ever have before, and you will be smarter than most of the elected representatives, judges, and attorneys in the country, because you'll know the Constitution. And we'll be right back on the Mom View. What kind of America do you want to leave future generations? What do you want America to look like for your children and your grandchildren? Our nation is at a crossroads, and it will be us, the mothers of America, who will determine the future of our country. What we teach and nurture in the hearts of our children and how we vote will make all the difference. If you love God, respect life, honor family, and cherish freedom, then use your voice and be heard. We teach these values in our home. Let's secure them with our vote.
What a great conversation. Al and Juleen, thanks for joining us. So
What a
fun,
privilege. Thank
so
you.
inspirational.
Thank you.
All
What
right.
a privilege.
Should we just end with some words
Yeah,
of that everyone can
we
encourage
love
our
having
moms?
you guys on our couch. This is a place where we want all of you to come and be a part of the show. And so I don't know, let's just do a last minute roundup. What do we want to tell everybody, all these awesome moms out there, about the cottage meetings and getting involved and making a difference?
Well, we keep adding more in Spanish. We're working. Juleen, are you going to jump in and do some in Spanish too? Because we want everyone. We want everyone to be involved in the cottage meetings, and language will not be a barrier.
I think involving our children is one of the most important parts of this, because you get to watch them act it out in your home and act out the stories in their communities when they're playing with their friends. And that's the best part, because then everybody learns. So I think that's my favorite part of cottage meetings.
Moms, you are the greatest influencers in your children's lives. It's not that the dads are not. The dads have a different role, but the moms nurture and they teach. They're just more sensitive to where the children are and what they're going through. So take that role as mom and run with it. Teach them, pray with them, teach them all of it. Right there in your home as you hug them and you kiss them, because they listen to mom in a different way. There's something tender about moms, and I just think you're the greatest teachers in your home.
And that just kind of takes us back to the beginning of the show, that liberty begins at home. And ladies, if you don't like what you're seeing in the country and around the world, you have the ability to change it right where you are, in your own home, in your own family. And that's the reason why we do everything that we do. It's why we have the Mom View. And we want you to come visit. So we want to hear your view. If you have any questions or comments, or just want to share your ideas with us, come to themomview.com, visit us at The Real Mom View on Instagram. And we are going to be back here again next week on the couch on the Mom View.